Cool, okay. So just to reiterate, we are making a to-do list. We're gonna have some event handlers, some on-clicks that will use conditional rendering and ternaries to render different screens on our app. So let me open up our to-do list. Get rid of all this stuff that we don't need. Open up my terminal and npm start. Cool. Also, a weird thing, most people, like in the real world, if they work with React, they don't like build React apps often. They maintain React apps. So they for this part of the process is really, really hard for a lot of people, and it's super easy for you guys. So props. Also, you will start to learn that we kill it in hackathons, like everyone from Galvanize does, because you do this all day, every day. You're just like starting things from scratch and finishing them as soon as you can, and no one else does that. So at Develop Denver, there was a group of Galvanize grads that just like absolutely murdered the competition. It was ballin'. And that will be you one day. Cool, okay, so what components, how do we want to break up this app? So we want conditional rendering, so do we want like a home page and we have to click to get into the to-do list part of it? Yeah. Does that sound good? Cool. Let's make that components folder, throw some components in there. Right now we're just going to do home page. I'm actually going to make this, because it's not going to have like any functionality at all. Nice. Oh wait, it's not app. Oh no. Okay, so what I did here is I made it so it wasn't a stateful component. This is just a functional component, because all this is going to do is look pretty and then take us to the next page. It's really not going to do anything or like much for us, so it doesn't need to be a class. So it's const homepage and takes in props, fatters into a function, and then we'll return the JSX that we want in here. What do we want on our homepage? Just make it a giant H1 tag and a button. Actually, no, the H1 tag. We'll put the on click on the div, so when you already click on the page, it'll take you to the next page. Also, you do not have to copy any of this stuff word for word, just a clarifier. This part is not my strong suit, so just ignore that part. Functionality doesn't matter. Cool, so once you guys have all of this ready, we are going to import it into our app and get it to display. We're going to import home page from /components. Oh no. /home page. And then here, what's up?
Does it matter if you do it before or after the import app?
Import the app CSS?
Yeah.
Do it after. I don't think it matters. I don't know, let's see. I don't think it would. No, I think you're good. I think you can do whatever you want. I always like have a little bit of white space here and then all the components I'm importing. Just to be like, here's the like dependencies that my app's relying on. Here's the components that I have. Because the more stuff you start using, the longer this section is actually going to get. Okay. Okay, if we look at our app, oh my goodness, what a beautiful landing page. Let's put a picture of a puppy on it. Everyone go find a picture of a puppy. Oh, look at him. We're going to make this what the, excuse me. I don't know why our picture of our puppy isn't showing up. That's so sad. Also, something to notice, like how many times I've already Googled stuff since we started. I don't know if you guys have like caught that, but I've Googled multiple things since we've started going through this because I don't know everything, and that's just like part of developing. Is like you are not gonna. I don't remember background image very well because it's been a while since I put one in. And let's see if this one will work instead. Does it need to be double quotes? Does this URL work? That's an important thing that I should have checked. No, that's why. Okay, there we go. Puppies.
Could you explain, like, when you said that didn't work?
Why it didn't work?
Yeah, it was the whole web page, right? It wasn't just like the URL of the image. Is that what it was?
Yes, so I clicked the wrong thing when I right-clicked, and so it, I should not be doing two things at once. I clicked the wrong thing, so I got the URL just to the web page. It's not going to pull the picture off that web page and display it. I didn't get the URL for just the picture, so I'm doing that now. And what I'm doing here is the picture repeat 4 times, so I'm saying background repeat. None of that stuff. I don't want it. And now I'm saying background size. Aha! Now there's our beautiful, beautiful app. Yeah. If you did not get a puppy, do not stress. Sorry, I distract you guys with puppies so much. But that is like a cool thing with React. The way that React works with your, or the way that CSS works with your code is the same. Nothing changes there. All of those skills are transferable. Unless you're trying to use a framework, in which case, no. Everything is different now. Okay, so what we want to create is an on-click that says, don't show homepage anymore. Like, we don't want that anymore at all. So let's create state. So it's not component, it's constructor. Okay, so throw this guy there. We want to make state that's going to say loaded is true or false, depending on what is clicked and what isn't clicked. And so I'm just going to create a state of loaded that is false. Yeah. Oops, false. And actually, I'm going to bounce back first, and we're going to go create at least a basic layout for our to-do page, and then we'll implement the ternary and the on-click and all of that. And again, at the end of this, I will push this up to GitHub and Slack it out to all of you. Cool, so let's make another component. Let's make a to-do component. I'm just gonna copy everything from homepage and put it in to-do. Oh, nope, except I want this to be class, because there's gonna be some stuff that happens in to-do. To-do's gonna be really functional.
So we're doing the class here because this is going to be functional.
Yeah.
And if you don't want it to be functional, then we do the const.
Or you can always use class, right?
You can always use one or the other.
So that language is confusing. Like to say that we're going to use class because it's going to be functional. Like.
Oh yeah, because it's called a functional component. Sorry, that was not good language. Thank you, Sean. So because I want to do logic, and because I might have state in this component, I want to make it a class. That was my thought process, making it a class. I personally, and it definitely changes based off of like who's writing React and who's doing what. I do this kind of component if I'm just saying like, hey, just like give me like a pretty static page. Like nothing really is going to happen. Maybe there's a button that takes you to another page. But for the most part, like nothing's really happening here. And then when I want a component that's going to do a lot of stuff for me, like to-do, where I'm going to be like creating things and checking them off and doing all of that, I want that to be a class. And so that's just like how I break it up. Because you can't have, like in here, we could put a constructor right here. You can't put a constructor in const. In functional components, you can't put constructors. Okay, cool. So right now for this to-do list, all I'm going to put is like a p tag that says to-do list, just so we see something when the conditional rendering works, and we'll go into more of the functionality of our to-do list in a second. But right now, I want to focus on our ternary and our on-click. So we're going to go in here, and underneath our state, but before our render, I'm going to make a handle click function. And I'm going to first make it where it is, I'm using this syntax so that the function is bound, and then I'll try and break it, and I won't bind it. And we'll see what happens. So all we want this handle click to do is change loaded from true to false, or from false to true. So I'm going to say this dot set state, and set state is a function. So we're opening up parentheses, and it takes an object, so we're giving it curly braces, and we're saying loaded is now true. So whenever this is ran, it will change loaded to true. And we want to pass this function into our home page so it can actually work. So it, like when you click something on the home page, it will trigger this to be true, which won't do anything yet, but it will when we put our ternary in. So right now I'm saying handle click is this dot handle click. I try and always keep these the same names. It's easier for my brain. Some people change them a little bit, but it's totally up to you. And then in my home page, I'm going to put the click on this entire div because I want it to be, like if you just click anywhere on my home page, it takes you to the next page. So I'm going to say this dot props dot handle click. And right now this isn't really going to do anything that we can see, but we can look in our React Dev Tools and we can watch state trigger. Or, yeah, go back and forth. And on click is super awesome. It just automatically adds an event listener for click. On change is the same thing, automatically adds an event listener listening for any changes. So the syntax here is very, very nice. It's just saying like, hey, when this is clicked, do this thing for me. So on click is reserved. That's why I named it handle click. Oh, I did something wrong. I did this dot props. Sorry guys, my bad. So there we go. So when you are using functional components, components that are not classes, it's not this dot props, it's just props. Because you are already passing props. And it has to do with context and all these things. So classes, you need to say like, hey, this, like look for this, and in these you don't have to. You're saying like, hey, you're getting an object of props, look in that object, find my handle click function. Cool, so now if we look in our React Dev Tools, we will see, no, go away. Stop. It's true. It was loaded true. Let me refresh. Haha, it changed. Is that really, really tiny for you guys? Yeah, it is. But that's what that's doing right now. And so right now it's not actually changing anything with our ternary, but it's about to. We're about to implement our ternary. So who has used a ternary before? Sort of yesterday. Cool. So let's do like a quick intro to ternaries before I enter it in here. Who knows the difference between these two things and these things and how they work with ternaries?
The ones on the left are if and else. The other ones are and or both values.
Yeah. So super close. That is true for this. So if you're using a ternary and you say like, hey, so like for an if you're like, hey, if this is true, oh, that's a word. Oh my gosh, I'm so used to map, guys. It's a problem. Else this. That is what this is doing. The same way to write that using the question mark and parentheses would be, this is true, so do this, or do this. So if it's true, do this. If it's false, do this. So you don't need curly brackets or anything in these, and you'll see a little more of the syntax in a minute. But this is where you give the statement that you would give inside of those parentheses in your if statement of just saying like, hey, like check and see if this is true. If it is, do the first thing you see. If it's not, do the thing after the colon. And these work these are saying only do this if this is true. So we used that yesterday. We said, hey, if this is true, do this. There is no else for that. So this is if else, this is if, is a simple way of thinking about it. So which one do you think we want to use for the render we're doing right now? We're going to have we're going to have a ternary around this guy, and it's going to say like only render this if, oh wait, I just forgot something. Sorry guys. Import to do. Oh, sorry, yeah. Is yours breaking? Yeah, I'll hang out.
Oh, we're good.
So you have to have props here, and then you have to have props dot instead of this dot props.
And why do you define it as a variable instead of a class?
Why do I have this as a variable instead of a class? Because it's a functional component. This really doesn't do anything. You can have it as a class, and if you want to have it as a class, this will be this dot props. I just did this because this component is not doing much for me at all. It's just returning some JSX, and I'm putting it on my page. It has this onClick function, but it's not handling it at all. So there's no logic happening here. It's just returning something. So I made it a functional component. The onClick, yeah. So it's called here, but our logic is actually in here. Our handle click's right there. Which you want, because if you try to set state in this component instead of this component, it will break. Because there is no state in this component. If you ever want to set state, make the function in your app, pass it down. You can set state, like if you have a class component like we do in to-do, we can have state right here. We can have a constructor with everything, and then we could set state in here, but it doesn't, I'm still unclear on like when and why. Sometimes it sets the state all the way up into your app.js, and sometimes it doesn't. Sometimes it just sets it in your to-do. So it's cleaner to just have it all in your app.js if you want the state to be changed everywhere, which you do. So set states should be in your app. Cool, okay, so now we actually grabbed our to-do. So let's throw our to-do in there. We're gonna use the one that has if else. So we want to say if this dot set, oh no, that's so wrong. If this dot state dot loaded, but there's something wrong with what I just wrote, and in a second, like take your time, I want someone to tell me what it is. It's like a logic problem of something's not going to work the way we want it to. So we have state loaded as false right now. A lower line? We need to have what below homepage? Oh, maybe? I don't know what your thought process is there. So walk me through a little more.
So it'll render homepage, put the event handler there.
But we only want homepage to render if loaded as false, because a homepage loads it as true, and then it'll load our other page that we want. So we only want homepage loaded if it's false. We want to do loaded if it's true. What is the logic problem I have here? That's fair. The first one is true. So this will never render because we initialize it as false. Our onClick is here. That will switch it to true, and so our to-do list will just automatically load. So we want to flip these things. So now it's saying like, hey, if the state of loaded is true, load our to-do list. If it's not, load our homepage. So our homepage will only load when the state of loaded is false. Okay, I'm going to flip over to the other page. If you haven't finished typing, that's totally cool. I'll come back here in a second. But I want to mess with this. So right now we have an onClick that is going to change it, and we're going to have our to-do list, which is awesome. So right now you can see it state loaded is true, and it's rendering our to-do list. It is not rendering our home page anywhere. And if I go over here and I toggle the state through my DevTools, if it's false, we get that other page back. So what this ternary is doing is just saying like, hey, if it's false, load this. If it's true, load this. And it's just flipping back and forth between those two things. Yeah. Sorry, I did go through like a few things very quickly.
So that's okay. I'm pretty sure I have it all correct. It's saying component here is not defined.
So you didn't compile, you didn't say input react, comma, component, whatever it is. So if you look at the top. Yeah, you need this guy.
Wait, mine's not. Can you go back down to the rendering and app? Should my ternary operators, like the question mark and colon, should those be like, do you have a certain color around them? Right now mine's just like white.
That's just like, that's also just like a diagram. Is it not working?
No, it's just
so go to your handle list. Go to your where you pass it. Because it looks like if you go back to your page, your direction page, your state's never changing. So if you go like toggle that state. So your onClick function is working.
When I click on them, it doesn't change. Yeah, but if I click on load it, it'll change.
I see mine's changing.
But if I click on that, oh.
Yeah, I figured. So mine is changing if I actually click this. So
Oh, the divs are tiny. So I made my div huge when I put my onClick listener on it. In my CSS, you'll see that I did 100 view width and 100 view height. So I can click the entire page and it will work. If you did not do that, A-okay. But that's why it's not working. You have to click like wherever your div is. Cool. You guys have a functioning ternary. Probably, I think. Most of you do. No? What's up?
Okay, that's fine.
I don't have the CSS.
Oh, loaded is true.
oh,
What should to do look like and what would?
There it should say to do this. Oh, it just changed right here.
You guys have beautiful functioning ternaries now.
Yeah, it's not much change because I don't have a picture.
Now we can't change it.
No, you cannot change it back. Do you want to be able to change it back?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So if you want to change it, back and forth, first we need to change where our on-click function is, because right now it's in homepage, and if homepage isn't there, we can't change it back. So what we can do is we can just give a little button in our to-do list that's like, hey, change it back. This I'm not going to go slow for because, like, you don't need it. Yes, it is not necessary. This part specifically, like the how to toggle from true to false, that is kind of cool. And we'll go over that in a second. Okay, cool. So do some stuff. It's still not going to work because we have this, but loaded is already true. So, like, it's not going to do anything. So what we can do is we can go into our set state, and this is a really, really valuable thing to know. So pay attention for a quick sec if you checked out. You're going to go this.state.loaded. So this is saying, like, hey, whatever state is right now, like when this loads, then you put a bang in front of it and says do the opposite of it. So every time this clicks, every time this runs, it flips from true to false. It does the opposite of whatever is there because of this bang. So now if we go over, we hit do some stuff. Awesome, it's true. We get the puppy again. It changed it back to false. We just go back and forth.
In the to-do list, we do this.props.handle because it is a class, not a function.
Yes.
Can I see your app.js again?
Yeah, I have it up. Sonia, you look really confused.
I'm just confused as to why.
What'd you break? Solid. Do you want help?
Yeah, now when I click on just the page itself, then I did say I could see the full cut. So I think what's happening is that you're just saying, hey, keep it what it is. Every time it's flipped, keep it what it is. I need to do this. Look at it.
Cool. So now you have a functioning toggle, which is super cool. This toggles state back and forth. Every time this function's ran, it goes. Which is a very useful thing to know when you're going to try and toggle things in Inbox. You have to toggle some stuff. So knowing how to toggle is cool. So bang in front of the current state, we'll just reverse it to whatever
Oh, I
the
think
opposite
it's
is.
the bang, that's why.
I'm sorry. Here, let me.
It's my eyes. I have broken eyes.
Cool. Okay, so now we have functioning ternary. That's awesome. Let's move into actually getting our to-do list to do something other than just go back to the puppy picture. What do we want it to do? First, let's make a form. That will have an input. And I've not made a form in a minute. Okay. Cool, that's what I thought. Look at that. We have a form input now. Okay, cool. So just, this is such a beautiful app, guys. So just create a form tag, throw an input tag with the type of text inside of it, and we're going to make an on-change handler that will listen for this. I'm going to hang out here for a second, though, so you can get that in there. But React needs an on-change. If you do not have an on-change on your input, you cannot get your value. Some people hate it. Some people love it. At the end of the day, it doesn't matter because that's how it works. So you need an on-change to listen for any single character that is typed in there. It will listen to, it will update something, and when you finally have like a submit or something that happens, it will grab whatever value it last heard and pull it. So right now we're just going to have an on-change that will console log the value of whatever we have in it. So I'm going to do this a little backwards. I'm going to say on-change equals, so I know I'm going to pass this prop down. This dot props dot handle change. It's going to break it because this doesn't exist, but I'm going to go make it and pass it down. Cool. So now right under my handle click, I'm going to do handle change. And in here, I'm just going to console log event.target. Man, this theme is so bad. There's things here. You can't see them. There's parentheses there. Dot value. Is there a better one? That sounds cool. Okay. Oh. And to give it an event.
Can we just use E? Or do we
You can use E. I'll allow it. And then we need to pass handle change. Ah. So just to reiterate, we're creating a handle change function that takes an event. It's going to console log the value of the event target, and we passed the handle change function down into our to-do list component. And if you look, it updates every time something changes. So if I typed in Spencer, it's going to get each one of those changes. Is anyone's broken? Just to update. Cool. So on changes are really cool because it listens for every single character. But you can see why we need a submit button, because we can't just say like, hey, when you get a value, do this with it, because the value might just be the first letter of a word. The value is not going to be the whole word that they actually want to put in. So this is really tiny. So we need to create a submit button that's going to like say like, hey, grab that data that you were listening to. Well, actually, we need to finish our on change first, and then we need to say like, hey, you've been listening to this data, you've been storing it, grab it, let's do something with it. So in our on change, we need to say, hey, actually do something with this data you're listening to right now. So let's go into our handle change. Right now we're console logging, which isn't going to help us at all. What do you think we're going to do?
Would you create like a state?
Yeah.
Like an empty array?
An empty array?
Well, you could do like tasks and then set equal to empty array. And every time you hit submit, it would like
Push it into a new task. But right now we need something to hold just like the thing while it's being typed out. We need something to hold it. So we'll probably need two separate states though. So that's like one step ahead, which we probably will do that. But right now we need something that's just going to hold a string as it's being typed. So I'm gonna initialize this state in my constructor. I'm gonna say, hey, you're gonna get a string in here eventually. But right now, just leave it empty. And then in my handle change, I'm gonna say, hey, listen, and every single time it's changed, update input value to whatever's changing in that input. So now if we go into here, we hit do some stuff. We actually want to look at not our console. Look at that input value. As we type in, it updates. Isn't that cool? So anything you type in here is immediately captured in input value. I'm going to hang out on this code for a second so people that are having a hard time can catch up, and if yours is broken, is yours broken? I heard a whispered, it's not working.
Oh no, we had missed that part, it's the state part, yeah.
It's a fairly important part. Yeah.
Where does it tell you where the value goes?
Where the value goes?
Or where does it log the value?
It doesn't log the value anymore. So I got rid of my log.
Yeah. Okay.
Now I just have a set state, and in React DevTools, I was just looking at the state update.
Okay.
Because React DevTools are dope, and they update in real time.
Minus saying input value does not exist, or is not defined.
Did you create input value in your state?
Is there a comma after the one before it?
Did you use camel case or misspell something?
And it all looks misspelled.
Oh, okay. No, you're good. I want to make sure if people are following along, their stuff is completely broken. Also, if your stuff is completely broken and you fell behind, I will hang out with you after and get you up to speed with what happened. Cool. So now we have, guys, now we have an input value that keeps track of what we're typing into it, which is super, super cool, but we can't do anything with this value yet. It's just kind of floating in the air. So we're going to create a submit button that will put it into something else so we can actually start like making a to-do list. Nope. Okay, and on submit can be really finicky, so we'll probably have to play with this a little bit as we go. We might have to do an on click with our submit button, or change it from a submit button to a button. I don't know. This is something you often have to mess with. Also, there's like a really obvious theme in my functions. Can you guys see what it is? They all start with handle, which is like really conventional. If you start naming, it's also way easier to read, and naming is hard. So if you find like good go-tos, rely on them. Handle click, handle change, and handle submit. Anyone that looks at your code knows exactly what that's doing. And it's easy. It makes it easier because it's like always on change or on click or on whatever and handle whatever.
Why is it that functions are always loaded in lower components as props?
As props. So why I'm doing it here is because all of my functions are setting state. And if I try and set state in a function that is lower, it's going to cause some problems. We can try it. A little bit later, I'll refactor it so one or two of our functions is in to do, and they're not passed down, and we'll try and make them work. But it gets really sticky really fast to try and do that because your state is in your app. Like this is where your main state lives. React recognizes app as the root of your application. So you want everything has to go through app before it hits the rest, before it actually hits the tree, the DOM tree. So if you have all your functions, all your everything in here, because your state is held in here, it is like the highest state. If you ever want to change state, you want it in here because you can change lower levels of state. It's super weird. But because to-do is a class, I could give it a state. And if I had state in here and that function, it would change this local state and not this state, like 50% of the time.
Wouldn't you just want to keep everything in app anyway, since you're technically designing for the next person to mess with it and make it way easier for them?
It's infinitely easier to keep as much as you can in your app. So if you look, and you start to get a feel the further, like the more you work with React, why you put things in app and why you put things lower in. If you are changing state or if something's going to be kind of high level in your app, like I think, well, obviously setting state is important, but high level things like our app is a to-do app. So if anyone is entering in a to-do thing, that's like pretty important to us. That's really important. So we want it in our app because it's a very important function. A lot of times I'll have maps and things like that in my lower level components because that's just like rendering. That's just figuring out how to get that displayed on the page. But your main functionality of your app, you want to be in app.js. Because when you start working with, like if you get a job in React, you will probably work with Redux or with some other state management tool. And that's why I wanted to teach you guys Context API, because it explains why you keep so much of this together. Context API, all of your state, all of your functions live in the same space. And it's easier to manage everything because like right now we have two components. It'd be super easy to find a function if we needed to. learn is built on React. I don't even know how many components it's made up of, but it's a stupid amount, just a stupid amount. So if any function broke or if there was something wrong with it and they had to go find that, that might take like an hour or two. But if it's an app and they know everything they need is an app, they look at that. Because they actually have, never mind, that's going to be a pointless rant. So yeah, keep everything in app because it's the simplest way to handle everything. It's the most reliable way to handle everything. And it's the most readable way to handle things. Cool.
Sorry.
Yeah.
And regardless of whether or not it's in the state constructor, everything within class app is a property of app.
Yes, so the app constructor is the state of app, but everything belongs to app in here. Well, not the export default, but the rest of it, yes. It all belongs to app. So you're importing this so you can give it to app so that it can be returned. So if you look in your index.js, React DOM is rendering app. App is rendering everything else for you, which is why you have your render component. The constructor isn't your body. The constructor, like if you didn't have this, oh.
The component app is like your body, right? Everything lives inside it, so you can see it.
Yeah. Everything in render gets put in the body. Anything that is returned from app is the body of your app, essentially. Cool. Okay, so now we're holding our state somewhere, ballin'. Let's actually get it displayed on the page. So let's create a handle submit. How do you think I'm going to get this value on the page? Yeah, sorry, what? I would say trust your instincts because the array thing was on point, and we will probably make an array in a second. But
I was just going to say, let's create a new component and you're going to pass the new state into.
Yeah, we can definitely create a new component. I might keep it just to JSX for time right now because we've been here for a minute and just return like a list item for this. But yeah, you're definitely on the right track. So we will want to eventually return a list item for every to-do list thing that we have. Right now, though, we just have input value. So what I want to do on handle submit is first I want to put whatever value is there into an array full of to-do lists. Then I want to render that to-do list array. So let's initialize an array. To-dos is an array. And then in my handle submit, I'm going to say this.set state to-dos. Oh, and this is also a valuable thing to know. Yeah. Man, we're covering so much. Okay, cool. So while you type this out, I'll explain what's happening here. So we initialized to-dos, which is just an empty array, and we want to keep all of our to-dos together so that we can map through them and render them on our page. And we want to grab input value and put that into this, but we don't want to lose all the so many to-dos that we've already put on our page. We don't want to lose those. So what you do is you also don't want to mutate state directly, so you can't just push it into the array like you normally would in vanilla JavaScript. You have to use a spread operator. So you have to say, hey, I am setting to-dos equal to a new array, a completely new array, where we're grabbing all the values from to-dos that it had before this moment, spreading them in there, and spreading them just means you pop it out of whatever it's in, and so like it's everything in here was in an array. So we're just popping it all out of the array and putting it in there, and then we're adding input value to this array. So we have our old array of stuff plus our new item, which is our input value. So now we have our array, and it's beautiful, and I love it, and we need to map through it now. So let's, so we can do that in submit, but the cool thing is submit is setting the state, so it's gonna re-render a component either way, and so we can do it outside of submit. So that way it will immediately render our to-dos when we open the app, and then it will re-render them when we add something. So I'm gonna say variable, also on the note of where to put variables, usually in between your render and return. Outside and above your class, reserve it for imports. Imports, imports, imports. That's all you want to be up here. The logic is in your class. And your variable names, if you put them outside of your render, it will break your app. So pretty much everything has to be inside your render. And if you need access to it up here, put it in your state. Because there's been times where I've tried to like plug in a variable up here, then use it in a function up here, and it's like, the fuck? You have to put it in state. Cool, so variable render to-dos equals this dot state dot map. Oh, this dot state dot to-dos dot map. That's what it is. I'm gonna say to do. So what I'm doing is I'm mapping through that to-do list array. I'm saying, hey, for each to-do item, throw it in a list item. And then down here in my to-do, I'm passing that array of list items to to-do. Yes, thank you. Another syntax note. So I prefer leaving all of the props I'm passing in just like a line that gets crazy long, because I don't like having to, a lot of people do it like this, which is awesome, and you can totally do that. It's just a personal preference thing of whether you want to do that or not. I don't want to see every single thing I'm passing because I usually know what I'm passing. And if I need to know, I can just scroll over and look at it. But some people think this is more readable. So whatever you prefer. I think Prettier automatically does that for you, though. I think it automatically puts in a row like that.
Prettier?
Prettier is like Beautify, but for React. Beautify breaks React. Prettier makes your React beautiful.
That's why I have my component files as JSX.
Does Beautify work with it now?
Yeah.
But it won't
Not with JS though.
work with JS.
Because it thinks
It's
everything's JavaScript. And it's like, why the hell do you have a div in your JavaScript? Which is fair. Cool, so I'm passing all my list items with to-dos in them to to-do, and now I just have to put them somewhere. So do I want to put them, let's put them, we'll just put them there. Yeah. Something in here might break, also. Something will probably break. Because I did a lot of steps without testing any of them. Cool, so once you have this stuff process render to do's, let's go see if anything works. Input value is not defined. Dope. But 9:30. Oh, that's why. It's this dot state dot input value. My bad. So if any of you copied my code, to-dos, when we make our to-dos array anew and give it our input value, it has to be this dot state dot input value. I missed that. Okay, we have our puppy. Seems promising. Nice. Totally what I wanted, for sure. Cool. Let's go find out why that happened. Our handle submit should not be changing that, but our handle click would. Why would it do that? Oh, okay, so submit re-renders your page, and when we re-render our page, this is true, or this is false, so this is going to show up. So we need to, nice. So what I'm going to do in my handle submit is I'm going to also make sure that loaded is true. I want loaded to stay true even in the submit. We'll see if that fixes it. I don't know if it will. It did not. In our to-do, I'm going to try, so I'm just going to like do a few things and see if any of them work. So, that was close. Okay, so we got it there before it re-rendered. So now we need to not re-render, which I think if we try, this might fix it. Haha! It did. I got a broken thing. Cool. It worked. So what I just did there was I messed around with a lot of things because I have had submit break on me many a time before, so I knew like the random things to mess with to try and see if I get it to work. Let me test and see if that actually needed to happen before I tell you to do it. It did not. Cool. Dope. What I added was in my handle submit, I passed it an event and I told it to prevent the default. And then I changed one other thing, which I'll show you in a second. And the default on things is usually just to refresh the page. So that's why we want to prevent it, because a lot of times it breaks what you want it to do. Okay, so I added the prevent default here, and in my to-do, I changed on submit to on click. Mm-hmm. It's annoying. So on submit, let's I don't want to give you false information. So let's do on submit waits longer. On click events fire when obviously. On submit events fire when the form is submitted. The origin of this event can sometimes be traced back to on click. Okay, cool. So on submit listens for more. So like you can hit enter and on submit will listen for it. On click will not. But also submit, the form does some stuff automatically for us. Part of that is it refreshes the page because it assumes, like it says like, okay, cool, I have to clear the field, I have to clear everything and show probably whatever you just submitted. So submit 99% of the time will refresh your page no matter what you do. Click will not. Prevent default does sometimes, but with submit, it doesn't override it all the time. I don't know why. It is annoying, but sometimes it does not work. So now, do some stuff. Figure out why on submit is dumb. Oh, it still works for enter, actually. So I don't know why. I entered it and it still worked. Cool, but look, we have so many to-do items that are automatically rendering on our page. If we look here, our array is now 5 items long because I hit enter 5 times. And our input value is nothing because I haven't written anything in there yet. So we have a functioning to-do app-ish. We can do more if you guys want to, or we can call it a day and I don't know, do something else. Because I'm open to doing this until lunchtime, but also I don't want to trap you guys in this room doing things if you do not want to do it. Because I also understand we've been sitting here. Cool, let's take a 5-10 minute break, and then we will make things cross off when we click them.
It's just a small thing. So it shows up. Yeah, I feel that way. Deep down.
Oh, okay, so it's in the array.
Yeah, it's in the array.
Okay,
So
let's go look at your map. Hop over in your to-do list again. Because you do not have regular to-dos in your index.
is that what this is?
So it's not to-dos, you don't need to put it in the key tag. So you gave it, like remember in the thing yesterday when I did that huge map through all those components, I just threw in the curly braces and the variable name? You're gonna do the same thing here, but with prompts. Ready? Because it's given you the items that you need already, like it's giving you the item in a tag. It's in an li tag.
Okay.
So now all you need to do is say like, hey, go into props, find this array of li tags, and display it.
Okay.
Yeah. And it's going to be
And it's
this
not
dot props.
It's this stuff. Okay.
And then it's rendered to do
Oh.
It's a lot of milk, no cereal, actually.
the opposite of how you should do it.
Somebody left like a quarter bowl of Apple Jacks and a quarter bowl of Fruit Loops. So I had to mix them.
Oh.
And I still didn't even get a full bowl. Or not even like a half bowl. It was really
Guys, this recording is so long. This is why I don't record things. I always do code longs, and it's like 20 minutes of silence. I'll edit it maybe later.
Tell some jokes.
Maybe I'll just start playing like Netflix whenever there's like a dead time, and they'll just watch a movie throughout. Like that's your mental break.
Hey, Spencer, can you help me?
Yeet.
My picture is
love it.
not disappearing. I can't figure out.
Did you put it on the background?
Yesterday we had cereal, no milk.
Oh,
So
yeah.
we got a whole bunch of milk, no cereal.
What's your
Like my house. I either have cereal
Oh.
or no milk or milk with no cereal. Right now it's
Yeah.
I changed everything.
Why is there this space here? What's up with this dead space, guys?
Can we do a search bar?
A search bar?
What are you gonna search for?
Oh, to search through our array?
Yeah.
Yeah, let's do everything. Why not? Spencer doesn't need to be saying it's fine. Let's do it all. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, we can do that.
This is starting to make sense to me now. But
That's the thing, guys. Practice.
it's the repetition.
Like, you just keep practicing all this stuff, and then eventually you're like, oh, that's why.
Like learning an instrument. Yeah. Or
Stage 1. Haha! I did it. What the fuck? Thank you. Actually, we're just gonna hard code it because I don't want to deal with this. Margin
Ready?
left. Never style something the way I'm styling it. I just wanted it to look less obnoxious. Aren't you inspired?
Yes. Absolutely.
I'm inspired. Cool. Okay. So you want to do a search bar?
Yeah.
Man, I've never even done a search bar. Let's figure it out. Okay. It's just going to be a filter, right? So we're just going to make a new input, and whatever is in there, we'll use as a filter, and then just return. It's going to be a lot of steps. Cool. Damn it, Sonia. Okay, cool. So to make that work, just for like test reasons, I'm going to throw in some to-dos just so we have like a baseline of things to work with. So we don't have to like input 40 to-dos every time we want to test this. So I'm just going to say, walk the dog, feed the dog, get some food. The sad thing is it's like really just like my day. Every day. That's it. That's the to-do list. Cool. Put whatever you want in your to-dos. I put dog in there twice so that we can filter for dog. That's why. I don't know if you guys realize there's a theme to most of my breakouts. It's dogs. Well, I've noticed people pay attention better when either you're sarcastic and kind of mean to them, or you implement dogs. Those are the two things that you need for people to like your breakouts. Pugs. Cool, so we want to implement a search bar. So to do that, let's go into our to-do. I'm going to put it above our form. I'm going to put it like, this is the worst looking app. Okay, cool. I'm going to put an input right here. The type is text. And then we're going to have another button. Cool. So I made an input where we can put some text in, and I put a button where we can search. We just did this a second ago. We made an input and a button. What do I have to do to make this input work? Some of you should know this. I taught you a ball and way of doing it. What do I do? Unchange. What do I do with an unchange? Do I just make a new one for every input I have? I can, but how would I do that? I'll give you a hint. One of you two should remember. Tell you both how to do it. So you're gonna give each input a name, and then you're gonna have the name equal to the value and state you're trying to change in that input. So some stuff is happening. So I'm actually, usually I would go through and change this. I don't want to right now, so we're just going to copy this, and we are going to name this, no, I'm going to change it. This is going to bug me too much. Okay, so now that we have two input value is too vague of a name. So we're going to say this is our new to do. This is our new to do. So we need to go through wherever we mentioned that and replace it. So I'm going to use my handy dandy Command D, make sure I got all of them. And I'm going to say new to do. Instead of input value. I changed the name of it. And then we want another input value now because we have a search feature that we are implementing. So we want to put, I'm just going to name it search. I'm just going to say I have this new item in state. It's called search. It is equal to an empty string, or its value is an empty string. So I have new to do and I have search. And I have a handle change that I really, really want this to work dynamically. I don't want to have a handle change that is separate for every single input I have because that is so much extra code that feels so unnecessary. So I'm going to go through and I'm going to give each of my inputs a name that is the same as the value I wanted to change. So I'm going to name my input field that has the submit that I put my new to-do list into. I'm going to name that new to do. I'm going to name my search field search. So my name is new to do, and the name up here is search. So first input is named search, second input is named new to do.
And then, so we did underneath the original button, we created a new input for the search bar, right? Its name is called search.
Yeah.
And its type is text.
And then a button underneath where its type is submit, and it says search inside of it. And we don't have an on click for this button yet. And so now in this input that we have, we can give it an on change because we're already passing it the on change that it's going to use in a second, which is this .props.handle change. So all your inputs should have on change equals this .props.handle change. Well, so we're making a single handler right now, but we're not going to use a ternary. We're going to make it, there's a cool little, it's not really a hacky way of doing it, but there's a cool way of doing it where you don't have to check what type it is. You can just dynamically use it. So we gave each of our inputs, to reiterate again, the name of the input the name of the state it will be changing. So I want this input to change our search state. So this .state.search, it should change that. So I named it search. And this input is going to change our new to do state. So it's going to change this .state.new to do. So in our app, a cool thing we get to do, oh no, is down here where we have new to do. We're going to open up these empty brackets And we're going to say e.target.name. Isn't it smooth? Isn't it nice? So what is happening here is opening. That was a word. Opening up these these brackets is saying like, hey, I'm creating this little empty space that's going to be filled with something. So you're telling this code, this is going to be filled with a word, and that word is what you're going to actually edit and state. Since we named our inputs well and we named them the state we wanted to change, when we type in our new to-do field, it's going to autofill this with new to-do. When we type in our search field, it's going to autofill this with search. So it's going to look to that state, change that state whenever we type into it. Dries.
Okay, so in the app.js we're doing on the handle change, we're now doing, okay, on the event, which is the unclick, we're going to set the state.
Well, it's not the unclick, it's the onChange.
Or, sorry, the unchange. We're going to set the state, and it's going to target the name of the change.
Yeah.
Which is search and whatever it is you put in the search.
Yeah. Yeah. Super dry, super dynamic. If you do not get it this first time, that's totally cool. I think most people that I tried to show this to with other things, I'd explain it like 3 or 4 times through. It's hard. It's difficult to get, which is totally fine. So if you're having a hard time with it right now, I will 100% sit down and explain it with you after this. But super dry, super dynamic, and super cool. So now if we go look, we go to our beautiful, beautiful list, and we type in, why is it a zip code? We type in anything into our search field. It knows to put it into search. Oh. And anything in our other field, it knows to put it in new to do. And it actually, okay, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more. Don't pause it. Stop. Okay. So it doesn't really know to put it in new to do. This is something that we as programmers did, but it doesn't know that name, that like, in the computer's mind, the name and the state, like the name of our input and the state that we are changing, are completely unrelated. We just named them the same things so that we could make our code work a little bit smoother. So it's not that like you have to name it the same thing you're going to capture the value. It's just if you want your code to work this specific way dynamically, you want to name them the same thing. It's the same way where like in shopping cart, a lot of you tried to put like price in your ID and stuff like that so you could grab it later. That's essentially what we're doing with name, is we're just making the name, the value we want to change, so we can grab it later and write a little bit more dynamic code. Cool. So now we have our search working, which is so cool, but it does not do anything. So let's make it do something. How do you think I'm going to make it do something? My search. What do I want my on-click to do for my search? So first I'm just going to make a handle search function. It doesn't do anything, but I'm going to pass it down right now, just so I don't run into errors later. And then I'm going to say on click for my search button is this.props.handle search. So all I did was I passed my prop down. So I said my on click is going to run my handle search function that's inside of my props object. And then in my app.js, I said, hey, make a key of handle search, give it the value of this function, and give it to my to-do. Cool. So let's make our handle search work. So we have the value we need. We have this.state.search, which is what we want to find. And we want to find it in our array of to-dos. I wonder what kind of higher order function would filter through this array and find it.
Maybe a filter?
Oh my goodness. Gee whiz, you guys. So we're going to return No, we're not going to do return. We're just going to start with this.state.to-dos dot filter. What am I going to put inside this filter? The list? I'm filtering through the list. Well, there's no event really happening with search. Well, I mean, actually, yeah, it is. But we already have our value stored somewhere else in search. This is where our value is stored that we're looking for. We want to find this in our list of to-dos. But I don't think this is going to work. So let's just say this is like let filtered. So let's try it with my console a readable size. It gave the whole array back, which is definitely not what we wanted. Super not what we wanted. So how do you think I'm gonna make this multi-line really fast? So how do I look? I have a string, and I want to see if that string, anywhere in that string, it has the word that I want. Does anyone know of a quick way of doing that? Ooh. Might be includes. That would do it. Nothing. Dogs. We did it. Cool. So to reiterate and actually talk about what we just did. So we're filtering through our to-dos array. We have the word that they're searching for, and we want to say like, hey, if the item that you're looking at right now includes the word that they're searching for, give it back to me. If it does not include the word they're searching for, throw it away. I mean, or don't throw it away, but don't put it in my new array. But we're going to need to do something else to actually make our filtered array show up instead of our normal array. Because when they hit search, it should change something so that our normal array doesn't show up anymore. Only our filtered array does. How do you think I can do that? Reduce? No. No, I don't know how that would work. This is more like logic-based, like, how am I going to say, like, hey, don't do this anymore, do something else instead. We already used one. Ternary. We're gonna have a ternary that when search is clicked, when search happens, we're gonna say, oh hey, show filtered a result instead. Don't show this render to-dos anymore. Show render filtered is what we'll probably call it. So what we want to do in this handle search is we don't want to console log. We want to set the state of something so that it says like, hey, don't show filtered, don't show our normal array, show our filtered array. So I'm just going to make something that calls filtered. And initially it's set to false because no one's looked for anything. And then this is going to change filtered to true. Yeah. So what I'm going to do, like what's the coder writing here, what it's doing is it's saying, okay, cool. When someone clicks the search button, like even if they don't put anything in that field, if that search button is clicked, don't show anything that like, don't show our normal array of everything. We don't want everything anymore. We want our new array of select items. We want our filtered array now. So we're going to have a ternary that says, or we're going to have a ternary that says, show our normal array if filtered as false, show our new array if filtered as true. And then we're going to have our handle search. When handle search is clicked, changes filter to true. And down here, we're going to make a ternary that says, hey, only show or only run render to dos, or like only map through this if this is false. If it's true, we want to map through a different one. So oh wait, we might not be able to do this the way I want to. Ugh, I have to do it a more complicated way. Okay, cool.
Couldn't you change what stored render to dos on that line?
Like right here?
Yeah, render to dos equals filtered question mark. Blah, blah, blah.
What do they call it? Filtered? Oh no. I think I can. Yeah, cool. So, yeah, here, let me actually just, there you go. That's so much better. Wow, okay. Okay, so to walk through what's happening. We're saying, we're putting our ternary in what looks like a weird spot. We're saying, hey, if we want render to dos to always exist. And render to dos is always going to be rendered in the same spot. But we want what it is rendering to change based off of our ternary. So we're saying, like, hey, if it's filtered, if this.state.filtered is true, map through our filtered array. If this.state.filtered is false, go to the other side of this colon and map through to dos. When I learned how to use ternaries, I was like, this is when I'm a developer, because no human who doesn't know code knows what's going on right here. It was so exciting. Because, yeah, like you see this, and you're like, what the fuck is happening there? Or this looks like real code now. Is yours broken, Sonia?
I think I missed something on the to-do list side.
Okay.
But this part works.
I'll just open up to list. Because if you miss something, someone else probably did too. Cool. So here's to do. Just to make sure everyone has everything they need.
There's another button.
So you should have the button that takes us back to the puppy picture, the button that is the search button, and the button that's the submit button. You should have all three of those. Cool. Cool. I'm going to bounce back over to the code, and let's see if our search thing works. Okay, so we have some stuff that says dog. So let's search dog and see if it shows us. Nope. Because it's not state. My bad, guys. My bad. Okay, so I'm doing something here, which is important because it will break your code if you do not follow along for this part. I changed, so I initially, in this part, I said this.state.filter.map. This.state.filtered is just a Boolean, so it can't map through it. And I had a variable up here, which I'd also named filtered. So it got kind of confusing with naming. So I renamed this variable filtered to-dos, and then now I have filtered to-dos.map down here instead of this .state.filter.map. So I will keep it on this page for a second, make sure your code matches this.
Change it to var instead of what? Alright, mine's Bill. I have protected this.
That's okay.
So also, when I search stuff on here, it doesn't come up in my search. If I do it on my to-do, it does.
Okay, so go back to your search and to-do. Name this search. Okay, go into your address. Go to your state. You have search there. No, you're good. Yeah, we'll debug it later. Okay, cool.
Now that Bell one's saying it's fine.
Cool, cool, cool. Let's go see if I broke the code. I did break the code. Filter to do's is not defined. Which means we just have to put it in state. That was kind of expected anyways. Okay. What we're going to do is we are going to... We're all fried. This has been like a long breakout. So this is the last thing we're going to do. We're going to put this array in state. We're going to put this filtered array in state instead. So let's, in our state, let's say filtered to do's is an empty array right now. And then in this set state, we're going to have filtered to do's equaled to filter to do's. And now down here, okay, cool, 1 second. So what I did was I changed, I added filter to do's, which is an empty array. I'll try and hurry this up, guys, sorry. I added an array that is an empty array in state that is called filter to do's. I now have this in my set state, in my handle search. I'm changing filter to true. I'm also assigning filter to do's the value of this guy up here. I named things poorly. I'm not going to change it because we're all fried. So this is like the key of filter to do's. This is the key in our state. This is referencing the value in this right here. So hopefully now it will work.
And then what was the thing that we did in November?
You have to change it to this .state.filter to do's now.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. Again, I will be pushing this up to GitHub.
Oh, it's still broken.
No. No, mine's not. Ah, yours is. I wrote working code. Cool. Yours isn't either? Yeah, I don't know why yours is broken. We'll figure it out though. But hey, we made a search function. We did the really big stretch goal of the search function. Which also, guys, like, I want to reiterate all that we did in the last hour and a half though, so you can be impressed with yourselves for a second. You learned ternaries. You figured out how to do a dynamic handle change. You built a homepage that directs you to the actual page of your app. You made a toggle function that toggles state between true and false. You made 2 input fields. You made both of them work. You made a search. You made a submit thing, which went through a map. And you did a search bar. You did so much stuff in the last hour and a half. You killed it. Absolutely murdered this.
From scratch.
From scratch. We built this from nothing. That's impressive. We did a lot. So be proud of yourselves. I'm going to go take a lunch break.